Welcome back to the No Limits podcast. Today's opening quote comes from J. Krishnamurti. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So, welcome back, Rodney Berg, documentary filmmaker. I know you don't call yourself this, but I consider you a revisionist historian. Welcome back. I just watched your video. It was on the Anne Frank Diaries. Can we please share your thoughts, just your initial thoughts on this absolute scandal that has been taking place in the post-World War II era?
Well, like our entire reality. The whole foundation and basis for all of the work I do is all about brainwashing and mind control. And it's not unlike the Matrix, blue pill, red pill. It's I mean, a lot of people who were in behind that movie, coyly and slyly said it's a documentary, and that's it. And when you start lifting up every rock and crevice and researching into everything, you find out that absolutely everything that we believe is a lie.
Now, when people watch videos like this, like I watched your video and I immediately just went into the BitChute search engine. I found that Anne Frank has a stepsister. Her name was Ava Schloss. She was on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan talking about the authenticity of some of the photos that came out of Auschwitz when, Russia, liberated the camps. There was actually, in fact, snow on the ground at the time these camps were liberated, but she got correspondence with the Russian embassy proving that they were fakes. And this is not really being told to anybody. The official history books are not interested in catching up. And get this, beyond this, the father, Otto Frank, is now the official co-writer because there was so much pressure on this situation to not put it down as a total hoax, but say that Otto just helped her write the true story about this, right? So, please take the mic on this one.
Well, it's more of the same. But what's when I did my first video, like I've known about this as a fraud, and actually a lot of truthers do know that the Anne Frank Diary is a hoax. But I'm
She's
not sure
seen as
about
like
you.
some kind of a saint figure. This is like
Well, you know what?
there's
As soon as this,
statues of her all over Europe and
like,
all.
if you go to Germany and move there,
I couldn't. I would
like,
be dead meat. I would be in jail for years.
no, but no. And you talk to the people that live there, they're going to tell you their side of it from their parents that lived through all of this, and they're going to look at you and go, "It's complete fucking horseshit." Because I've talked to some Germans, and they're like, "Oh fuck," when it's us over there, we're like they're pissed off that they have to live under this bullshit for how many decades later is it?
It's
The whole thing was
madness.
choreographed, and they're still paying the price in terms of the way they're perceived and looked at.
And they don't deserve this either.
Well,
That's
that's
the big thing.
exactly
They don't deserve to live like
it,
this.
exactly. It's abuse. It's mental, spiritual, psychological abuse, generation after generation, and it's absolute bullshit.
It
So
seems like when you talk to Germans, they're very closed about this subject until they trust you. And then when they trust you, the entire conversation will change. I think
yeah,
this needs to happen on a big scale because how long are we going to go along like this? And like Germans growing up being, re-educated in their schools and Austrians and all these crazy laws around Europe being enacted to restrict your free speech. Now, you can't even be in Germany and question this stuff at all. If you made this video in German in Germany, it might be a problem for you right now. But
yeah. It
thank God
also
we live
might.
in, the wonderful nation of Canada, which is just strikingly beautiful in many, many ways. It's summer here right now. And, I think things are going to get better because when you see organizations acting super tyrannical like this, it's almost like they're losing their grip on the people because why else would you need to shut down free speech? There's no real other reason.
Well, they are. I mean, they are losing. Um, how this will end up, is anyone's guess. But um, you can tell that there's certain um, certain issues that pop up that just don't jive with, the bulk of society. And the one right now that has really gotten, people's backs up is the LGBTQ. Nobody's buying this. Nobody wants it. Deep down, everybody knows it. It's the generation Y or Z, that are pretty young, I'd say under 30, under 35, maybe, that, they're the militant, brainwashed, because they've gone through it all through their school years, into university, and, they're tied into it financially,
There's an
socially.
industry with this whole thing too. Like you're celebrated as being like some kind of a legend for being part of this movement.
Oh,
It's it's so
uh,
weird.
you should see this. I think I've said in some of my videos, I have a file folder that I could do, easily 20 hours of LGBTQ content, like just research, important research, debunking all of it, all their museums and their history that they've written down, and it's all nonsense, man, all of it.
Now the
But, well, I just want to get to a quick point though. But I was
Of course,
watching,
yeah.
I saw a video from, Drew Barrymore's TV show, and they got the new poster trans kid, and, she literally gets down on one knee and like holds her hand out to the girl, and she's like, "Thank you, thank you." Like, I mean, it was the most, and this created a bunch of Twitter bullshit, but it was the most cringeworthy thing I've seen in 10 years. I mean, it was just fucking gross. And anyway, I'll just leave it there. You can find it online if anybody sees this and hears this, but it is just, oh my God. But
Well, we
anyway,
are mid, Pride Month, and I would just like to pop in here and say that you should not be proud of your sexual orientation. It seems to me like a lot of these people just have done nothing in their lives and they feel the need to be celebrated for something that they haven't done. Like you should go out into the world, make great art, make great music, make great documentaries, and have something real and tangible to be proud of. No one
well,
cares what you're attracted to or who you're attracted to, really, unless it's like completely out of control. And you know, why is this being celebrated as something proud? Like, are you proud to be, a Canadian left-hander, or are you proud
well,
to be an owner?
what do you think would happen if you went into your workplace, like let's say 20 years ago, and just started talking about who you're dating all the time, and who, your sexual exploits, and this, you'd be fired. But anyway, this goes back to the hypersexualization of mankind, and that goes back, and that was all Zionist Jewish banker funded. Germany, 30s, late 20s, the degeneracy of mankind, and, they did it under the guise of academia and freedom's right. I want to be a sadomasochist, and all of this stuff was ushered into, humanity. And each decade, it got worse. Rock and roll in the 50s. The term rock and roll means to fuck, okay? To rock and roll. And if you go back to the 50s and you listen to the music, it's all double entendres, but it's all about fucking all the time. 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. So they're putting this into young teenagers and kids' heads. And then the 60s, it got worse. And then the 70s was all LGBTQ. David Bowie, they were dressing them all up in makeup. And then, of course, the 80s, the glam rock. Well, you've got men in full makeup and teased hair. I mean, they're complete girls. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And here we are now with the pronouns. That started about 20 years ago, all invented, never heard of it before, complete nonsense. And, I was at a soccer game the other night, and I'm glad I remembered this because I wanted to bring it up, because I've done a ton of research into the LGBT community, and I've delved deep, and I've gone down and tried to get answers for legitimate, civil, polite questions like, do you think it's right to have this in schools and put upon, let's say, a 6 or an 8-year-old child? Is this appropriate? And I still haven't got an answer. All right. I get deferred and deflected and sent down the line, down the line, down the line. Then I end up at this just grandiose website that I think people know. It's like this guy Ryan. He was a Hollywood actor, and it's heavily funded, man. I think Soros funds it, and all I got was a form letter. And I've done this a few times to other organizations. You can't get. They won't answer anything. I don't know if you saw my video there with
Well, they're tolerating it, right? Because
the
honestly, Trevor Loudon made a great point. I love his work. He's New Zealand, he's a Kiwi, and he's operating out of the United States. But he says this like, how many people do you actually know believe that there are more than two genders? Probably nobody, right? Yet they all go along with it. Every single one will go along with it due to fear
yeah,
of punishment. We live in this control system where it's like the mass line. During the end of the Convid hoax, we were seeing a lot of people kind of dropping off, but they were still kind of going through the motions. They would stand 6 feet apart from each other, and it seems like there's just this one very narrow avenue for you to live. And basically, if you go to the right or to the left of it, your entire life will break down, both professionally, socially, and institutionally.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Just hang on 1 second. I'm going to switch the view here because I want this on the full screen, and we'll continue on in 1 second. Now, how do I change there's the view. Yeah, let's get this rocking, man. Gallery, is that it? No. Half side self view? No. Um, Immersive? Oh, that ain't it.
I've got gallery. I've got the side by side.
You do?
Yeah. But speaking more on this, like Anthony Bass, recent Toronto Blue Jays pitcher, not a bad player as far as I'm concerned, but he got caught going against this, and he faced the wrath of baseball. Not only did he face the wrath, but he had to actually apologize. He went through all of this stuff and made this huge deal about it. The media was in his face, people were heckling him. He finally got up and said, I'm so sorry, like I will change my ways. I will do the official Toronto Blue Jays reform policies and, come back a better person. He goes through all this stuff, and eventually what do the Blue Jays do? They cut him from the team. What happened there?
Well, they bowed to the RZC. The Rothschilds, oh, come on, man. They just caved like a bunch of spineless, gutless, testosterone-less little cowards. And who picked them up? Texas. Immediately.
I didn't know that. Canada
Oh yeah,
seems to be very, very
Texas,
forefront when it comes to these
Texas,
kind of issues.
Texas and the Bible. They don't put up with any of this LGBTQ bullshit, man. They got zero tolerance for it down there, and they were like so happy to pick them up. But I also think the Anthony Bass thing really made the Blue Jays look terrible. And I will be once in a while they leave the comments on Sportsnet or the for an article or something, and they're all shut off now. But just right when that happened, I caught a couple of them open, and I'm telling you, Stuart, I've never seen anything like this, and it was all negative anti-LGBTQ. People have had enough, and you know what? Like I haven't seen people speak up like this, like ever. Like they weren't talking like this about COVID, but for some reason, LGBTQ and the sports community, I would say, all these
Well,
comments were
what is
100%.
this? Is this a baseball game? Is this a hockey game, or is this something else now? Because I'm pretty sure people are paying the ticket prices to watch, the game and not have all this stuff thrown in their face and, basically be called, a terrible person if they don't go along with every single part of it, right?
Well,
And they
they get
really don't like
yeah.
seeing some of their players that they pay to see get kicked out too. It's crazy.
Well, it's like you said, it's the bullying and the peer pressure and the shaming people feel. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, that's a whole another episode about psychology and the fractured mind and how weak it is, and self-esteem and all these things. And there again, a large chunk of my work goes to spirituality, and being godless and aimless and soulless, right? And vaccines. We know Rudolf Steiner. He said they're going to use vaccines as a guise for medicine to eliminate the soul, to destroy the soul and disconnect from our creator.
And
And
one
that
of
is
these things about these
that
drugs,
but I'll just say one last thing.
yep.
That is the primary um, goal for the Rothschild Zionist cabal, to disconnect us, sever us completely and utterly from our creator, to
We
make
need
us
much more
godless,
psychology in our
soulless,
lives.
and aimless. And all I can say is, for me personally, I'm not religious. Um, do I love ancient scripture and biblical scripture? Sure, it's interesting, but those were fables, to teach life lessons. But anyway, not to be taken literally, but um,
They
uh,
are taken literally, though.
my life is just combined with all the other work I have done, health and wellness, a 14-year journey. I couldn't be where I'm at without believing that there is a God out there. And if you look at nature, the sacred geometry, the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, it's everywhere in nature, and that's God's signature. It's undeniable as
The
far as
world
I'm
is an
concerned.
absolutely magical place,
Uh-huh.
and you just have to step out into nature to see it. And one of the things
Yeah.
that's very disturbing about this whole push for, the climate change is that the kids are not being taught this. We're seeing suicide rates, really skyrocketing among especially youth. Now imagine not you're supposed to be, skateboarding, you're supposed to be in the woods, you're supposed to be picking up frogs and, making castles and stuff, and these kids are being told that, no, this is going to end. And I get a lot of this stuff from the Unslaved podcast. That's with David Whitehead and Michael Tessarion. But what's the effect on these kids when you just bombard them with all this negative stuff? When it's not true. It's not true. The world is just an unbelievable place, and you don't really even have to go far to see it.
I've seen teachers in videos telling their class that if they don't change their ways, they're going to be responsible for the world exploding or dying.
Imagine telling that to someone who's eight.
That teacher should be put in fucking jail. That is criminal. Criminal.
This is
And
common.
I don't give a shit if she believes what she's saying is true or not. It is your absolute responsibility to fucking research it. Right?
Well, true or
You
not, that
better
doesn't really matter to them.
but you better make fucking damn sure that you're telling the truth if you're going to say shit like that that's going to destroy these children. The fuck is wrong? These people are fucked up, man. Really fucked up. And anyway, I know they're brainwashed, but you still have a due diligence to research everything that you're teaching or indoctrinating these kids with. And if you don't like it, then quit.
I've been seeing a lot of good ideas where if 20 parents just took their kids out of the public schools, they could afford to buy their own teachers and just teach them, real things outdoors, maybe have some outdoor group activities. And of course you could teach them math, reading, writing. But think about how much money 20 times $100 is, a week or a month. That's enough. It's sustainable, it's realistic. You just have to find like-minded people to get these things done. And these things are popping up all over Canada. They're popping up all over the United States.
Yeah.
And people are just rejecting this. We don't want the traditional education system anymore. We don't need 30 kids to a class where you're just
Well,
trapped
it's
and
not
you're supposed to be, being a
it's
kid.
it's not an education system. It's lies. So just on that, done. Taking my kid out of there. You're not teaching my kid fucking lies and the competition system and it's complete bogus. If you go look at the studies, if you can find them on unvaxxed homeschooled children. I mean, it's like night and day. You got like a fucking one kid like this, and the other one's just calm, happy, spiritual, Um,
Connected emotionally there.
properly loved, balanced, all of that stuff, right?
I'm kind
There's
of mixed on this because it seems like kids are getting a lot smarter also. It's like the age of the wizard is lowering because they have access to all this information now, whether it's free books online. The library is always open. It never really closes. You can get, any book you want on Library Genesis, libgen.is. You can get a Scribe. You can get there's tons of resources that I wish I had access to when I was younger. I mean, would I have gone and pursued it all? Probably not. But you know what I mean. Like, I think
sure.
kids now are smarter than a lot of their teachers, so that's why they're tuning out, and that's why they're maybe dropping out of society and maybe becoming these gamer types because they've seen through it. They see that this is all bullshit, and they know that it's bullshit, and they can do better. And I think a lot of them will do better.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely some truth to that, for sure. For sure. They can see through the veil. I mean, um,
I mean, we're still teaching Rockefeller medicine protocols, right? And that was debunked over 100 years ago, whether germ theory, and it's good to see some of that house of cards falling down.
so what I was saying earlier, I was at a soccer match the other day, and I don't know, there's about 5 or 6 thousand people there, and uh, I'm leaving. The game's still going on, and I see two groups yelling at each other, and it's the opposing fans. And who do you think, or what flag do you think the group yelling at them were carrying? LGBTQ
Oh, the Noah
pride
hide.
flag. Those were the ones fighting and drinking and yelling at the opposing fans, and they were forcing the issue. Oh yeah, come over here. I mean, aren't they supposed to be the inclusive ones?
Oh well, we've seen right through that. The
No, no,
left are not the inclusive ones.
dude, I've done probably 8 documentaries on the LGBTQ community, so I mean, I know what they're all about, and they frighten me. And but
But
they're
we have to admit that they're very good at this. They're very talented at getting together with like-minded people and following a narrative. I mean, they can get anyone fired from anywhere just by putting pressure on the headmaster or the organizational head. We have to we are on the battlefield with them, and we just need to know their tactics, and we need to give them credit where credit's due. And I think we need to start following some of this stuff because I can't stand to see
well,
this
you know what their methodology is.
yeah, mob.
It is textbook taken from uh, anti-Semitism,
Okay.
right? I know I've used the same photo from a an Israeli. She's passed away, but she was an Israeli minister, and she was on Democracy Now, and I have the video too. And she says, "Anti-Semitism, it's a trick. We always use it when we're asked legitimate questions. We just yell that, and we go on the offensive, and we make them look like the villain. We do it all the time. In Europe, we just say Holocaust, and in the United States, we just say anti-Semite."
Or
Um,
well, in the US, they also have a month in February where they just remind you that you're a
oh
terrible
yeah,
slave owning.
it's the same as yelling transphobe and bigot or homophobe. Same as anti-Semite, right? Somebody asks you a question that makes you uncomfortable, you yell homophobe. You're a homophobe. Like I don't know if you saw
We
my
need to
Matt Wall.
lose the stigma and just open these conversations up like we're doing now. I think these kind of conversation is the only way we're really going to break out of this stigma where we're just afraid to even, live our lives
But
truthfully.
but we are. They're losing. The LGBTQ is one thing that they're losing. Like it's just not going. Dude, I don't get any more like I never get any negative comments on Twitter. And like I'm just putting out content all the time on that subject. And I used to get it about a year ago, but it's stopped completely. All I'm getting is positive stuff and shares and retweets and likes. People aren't afraid to. This is the one subject that I've seen of all the things that I cover, the one thing that people have just said, all right, I'm putting my voice out there and I don't give a shit what happens. I
Well,
don't care about
corporate
my
America and every government out there is supporting this. Except, of course, the Middle Eastern and the African and the ones that are, still, not on board with any of it. But
Yeah,
we've
but yeah,
seen
but
all these company logos change from,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Noahide flag.
but I mean, let's talk to the vice president. Let's talk to the C-suite people, and then just go down from there. And then we ask the people. And I bet you once you get past the C-suite, I bet you under the umbrella underneath that, you'll find there. You take a poll, and I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 people, whatever, it's a huge majority, are
Yeah, they
saying
hate this
this
stuff.
is fucking ridiculous. Like it's reached that level. People are just like, this is fucking stupid. This makes no sense. He, she, if, or like people have fucking had enough, man. They've had enough. Like they know this is completely wrong, completely unnatural, completely like it was. People tolerate it or whatever. Like I don't, like nobody had a problem with gay people. All of this is an illusion. It's all invented. It's like a rabbi painting. They've caught rabbis painting swastikas on their synagogues and temples for decades. They've seen them do this to draw
Yep.
sympathy and ire and support. It's no different than like
Yeah, the
Soros will.
flags being stomped
Well,
on
no,
and
but
that kind of thing.
they'll make up a gay bashing incident and milk it for 40 years.
Yep.
That's what they do. They just invent history. Like I told you about the museum and everything. Like it's all nonsense, all of it. You know, the only truth in our world is nature.
Now, about this museum, I've heard you mention this before, but I don't think we ever really explored it. Is there a LGBTQ museum somewhere?
Everywhere. They're popping up in every city you can in the world.
And I'm imagining they're publicly funded and
Oh
obviously
yeah,
probably some
yeah.
corporate support in there too.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Huge dollars. Yeah.
And to get
And,
in there, I guess you have to
and they
sign a thing
rewrite
saying,
and like all of our history, they rewrite it, invent stories,
yeah,
put them in there, send it to academia, and they're teaching it in the universities right now as we
right.
speak.
Well, the buses of kids, have they started going to the LGBT museums like they are to the Holocaust
Oh,
museums right
the
now?
gender studies people, absolutely. I don't know for a fact, but I would put all my chips in and say, yes, they're taking field trips there. Of course they
I
are.
took a field trip to the Montreal Holocaust Museum. Like you were forced to go when you were a kid, and they bus in like hundreds of thousands of students from all across the Eastern to go to this museum. Like you have to go.
See, when you
And then
say
you
something,
go and then you realize it was a lie after like most of it was like, either half truths
right,
or a complete lie, which is
and when
very, disturbing.
you say something like that to the uninitiated, they'll be like, yeah, as if they're going to send in 1 million kids a year and it's a hoax. Like as if, man. Like that's their evidence, right? That will be their proof. They no way they would spend that much money on all these. Yeah, come on. It can't be fake. Like
Well,
you're
I have so many
stupid.
examples where people are actually conspiracy theorists. Like think about pro sports and the NHL specifically. No, most of my relatives think that the NHL is rigged against Canadian teams. Now, because a Canadian team has not won the league and they think that it would be a lot less money for the league, which is true. So they are definitely into this stuff and they're big time into it because who would say something like that about a league, especially like the NHL, unless they were, into conspiracy and kind of the obscure.
Well, they're just questioning things, and that's why on my BitChute channel why I don't allow any silly comments or any infighting, and and maybe I don't get as many comments as I probably would, but that's fine because say somebody's questioning the government for the first time in their lives, right? Let's just say a 60-year-old woman or a 60-year-old couple together, right? They work for the government all their lives. They've never ever even entertained the thought of questioning Big Daddy government, right? But with COVID and now LGBTQ, that's enough, right? Boom, the fuse is lit. Honey, do you really think they're telling us the truth? I mean, this is really hard for me to digest. It doesn't seem right. Okay, so they start. Okay, so then they research. They go online, they find a video, and they go there, and I want mine to be just, what if they see a comment and a bunch of people fighting and choose this and Jew can kill, like they'll be so scared. They'll be like, see, they're just like the internet said that these conspiracy theorists are fucking crazy. So
Oh,
they'll
I'll be the first to admit that the alternative media is not only one a terrible thing to look at in general. I've made a big effort to separate myself from that. I have my own website, I have my own podcast, and you've done the exact same thing
oh
because we have to admit the thing that alternative media is full of fucking losers. And it's not, you have to search and you have to know what you're looking for on these websites and
oh
not just go and say, like, this is representative of everything. We have some heavy hitting people. We have people of, presidents of the United States. We have, people who are senators of states in the United States. We have people in MI5, MI6. I would only ever go to higher sources.
um yeah
Very eminent people, much more eminent than myself. So don't believe anything I say. I'll always back it up with some more concrete stuff.
yeah. Well, I truly believe that almost everyone inside, they may not say that even to a close friend or family, but everybody's asking at least one question. Maybe it's a small question, but people have doubts. How can you? I mean, you could be the most asleep, the most brainwashed, the most indoctrinated, but that's what the soul is still deep down inside there for everyone. It may be down to 2% battery life, but sometimes it kicks in and it'll send you a signal to your brain wave and it'll say, just for a second, geez, that doesn't seem right, man.
I feel
There,
like, even if you try and avoid the truth, you can't. It'll just
no.
find you at some point and you'll be
Yep.
forced to look at it and be like, oh yeah. And then maybe you could, mask it with some, whatever you
Oh
do
yeah,
for
just grab a
entertainment.
grab a 40 of vodka and we'll turn that
Pretend.
right off.
Or you can do what a lot of these academics have done, which is keep one foot in academia and one foot out, right?
Well,
So
that's
they're
good.
like halfway there. They're maintaining all their that sweet paycheck. They're maintaining their status in society because, if you write about some of the stuff that we talk about, your publishers will not publish those books. Someone like Ralph Ellis, who is a fantastic speaker and writer, he has to get his books published in China because he questions climate science.
Well, they have a thing now. You can just you can publish your own books, you just and then you get the boxes sent to you and you
Oh, yeah, they print it when it's ordered, right?
you could just, if you're just selling a lot, you just say, okay, well, I sold 100, so make 300 more. You get the boxes in your house and then you send them out in the mail and make
One
your
of the
money.
interesting things about Ralph Ellis is that he actually has a big fan base in China, which is kind of makes the story a little bit more fun, right?
Yeah. Well,
Because climate science is not exactly it's a very delicate issue in the West, and we're being ushered into this world that I don't think anyone wants to go to, and it's not based in truth. Let's be honest.
well, no. But yeah, what were you saying about the people with one foot in academia and one out?
Well, they eventually know that their
That's
life is.
they're controlled opposition. Just like the 95% of the truther community are controlled opposition, and I know who they are, and they can't put anything by me, and I know a lot of them follow me.
I would
A lot
like to
of
name a couple right now. Lauren Southern. I would like to
well,
name another. Del Bigtree.
I don't. Well, I'll delve Bigtree for sure, and Kennedy, and these types. But I'm talking more of the ones that I know and have interacted with. You know, and by now I have to be careful because
Yeah, I'm
there's
I'm super careful about this
there's
stuff too.
different types of controlled though. There's people who just won't touch certain subjects. There's others who will lie a little bit, but the ones who just won't touch certain subjects is because they just want to make money. And you know what? How can if somebody's got to pay their bills, and they don't want to get kicked off YouTube, so they got to toe the company line a little bit, and they won't touch certain subjects, and maybe I could have gone that route, and I could have 10,000 subs and do live streams and make some cash because I haven't really made a nickel for the
Well, one of
thousands and thousands and thousands of hours that I have put in making my content. And I know the quality
it's
of my
crazy
videos.
how much I can see how much effort you put into this, not only by the quantity of videos, but by the quality. And you've done even full-length documentaries. I just
Oh,
want to say that if people think that there's no money in conspiracy, well, look at Hollywood. Look at like all these movies that are about, finding the golden totem in Libya or whatever. Like how about the ones where Nicolas Cage, I forget what it's called, but there's so many of these in Hollywood, and there's an appetite for this all across the world, and they're ready to pay big bucks for this stuff. Like, how about like Pirates of the Caribbean? Like, we're ready to find the buried treasure. We're ready to.
well, Indiana Jones has a new one coming
There we
out.
go. Yeah.
And it's funny though, that the whole premise behind that is, Indiana Jones basically works for the RZC, the Rothschild Zio Cabal, and he goes around and he steals the most, um, what's the term? Like he steals artifacts from civilizations they have no business being in without any remorse or guilt. They steal the most cherished, um, loved things in a culture's history, and they don't even think twice about it. That's the premise. A bunch of disgusting thieves. Like that's the story, right? They go around and rip off ancient civilizations and take their most beloved possessions. There it is. That's the wording I was looking for. They take the most beloved possessions from ancient civilizations. Fuck you, people. Yay, Hollywood. Just
Does it look good? Or are you gonna go see it?
Oh, I'll probably. My dad wants to watch it with me, so of course I'm going to
Okay.
go. But I'm just saying though, people just watch those and they think it's hooray Hollywood, but they don't know, they don't get what's going on, like
Well, they leave the theater and they forget all about it. They're like, oh well, back
no, they
to
don't even question it. They just think that's what they're supposed to do. You're an archaeologist in the United States, and it is your job to go and get these and bring them back to your university
yeah, but
because
deep down, I think that's why people are attracted to these movies because they do know, but their conscious mind is not letting them get there in
yeah,
full, at
yeah.
least in professional life.
But interesting though, like that's Hollywood. They take satanic thoughts and ideas and concepts, dress them up to make them appear normal, desirable, and righteous.
Yeah, speaking of Hollywood, I know you did a great video on Woody Harrelson's little speech on Saturday Night Live. Now, this really erupted Twitter. The internet pretty much went crazy about this. Woody Harrelson went up and basically told the truth about COVID on live television. What was going on there?
Did you see my follow-up video with
Yeah,
David
there was a
Spade?
follow-up with Mayer too. Bill Mayer, maybe?
Bill Maher and David Spade. Yeah, my
Yeah.
follow-up video.
Okay,
That
yep.
was that was even better.
No, he
Because
knows he knows germ theory is not true, and he is speaking about this publicly. I don't think he'll ever get a job in Hollywood again, but he's made his impact.
well, he hasn't crossed the line though. Like
He's
he
touched on it.
yeah. Well, you know what? Nobody's watching him closer than I am because I absolutely want to see what he does for his next roles and what happens to him. But um, yeah, people are getting more brave, like we talked about. Absolutely. There's Woody, Bill Maher talking about this on his podcast. You can't do that on real time. He knows damn well the axe could come down on him for doing this too. He won't go as far as Woody, and he makes sure he says that in his videos. He goes, I'm not saying that there's not germs out there or anything like that. But he's close. Woody's yeah, you're right. Woody's gone a foot and a half over. He's got a half a foot hanging in the in the workplace Hollywood realm. But Bill Maher's, and that's great. That's great. And you know what happens? They always say as you get older, um, you just reach that point of fuck it. Like I got a lot of money, and
They have kids too. They don't want to live like
well, Bill Maher doesn't, so he can. But Woody does have kids. But anyway, it's great. All it takes is one. Then the idea and the seed gets planted, and then maybe the next Hollywood person will do it.
now.
Oh,
There
there was
have
some.
been aware celebrities in Hollywood before. How about Robert De Niro, Jim Carrey? They've both been lambasted in the media by questioning the science of different drugs, but they've never gone as far as Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson got on Saturday Night Live and basically outlined how Big Pharma was going to let you out of your house if you take their drugs, which is exactly what happened. in Canada. Canada was one of the craziest countries when it came to the COVID lockdowns. Maybe Australia might have been worse when it comes to like a Western parliamentary democracy,
Wow.
but thanks, Woody. We needed it, and hopefully you'll keep going on that tune.
Yeah. Canada's a shithole. I'll say it again because I say it all the time. It is. And the
That
world,
can change at any time.
I don't
It's
think the
all of
world,
our choice.
I don't think the world believes that maybe they still do, but with those stupid polls, but for the longest time, every decade, it was Canada's the greatest place to live in the world, and it's the complete opposite, which is again a foundational point I make in all my work. Inverted world: up is down, down is up, wrong is right, right is wrong, evil is
Well, there's
good, good
solutions
is
all
evil.
around us, and you've provided us with a number of different solutions. Like just one I think is the most important is becoming more resourceful and taking your health into your own hands. I would always recommend people to go and take like, most of their health into their own hands. Your first reaction should be to learn, not to go to one of these doctors who can't even solve their own problems, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, that's I'm actually going to do a video on because I haven't been doing health videos for a while, and I definitely want to, and I've got a few that I want to do, but one of them is going to be on and I might talk to a few truthers about this, and I might turn it into a series, but I'm not sure. But how people find balance when they know the truth about our realm and how everything works. And for me personally, I was lucky. I know I told you I've had a rebirth, and about 5 years ago, I cried for a year and a half, and I got rid of all my demons. And this is part of my 14-year journey that began in 2009. My health and wellness journey started with quitting cigarettes. But anyway, my point is, how do you find balance when you have all this knowledge, right? And it took me years to figure that out. And I still coach people all the time online, and people, and I'll just give a little bit of advice. I had a lady the other day from the States, and she was like, "Thank you so much, man." She goes, but there was a guy on there, and he was telling her that I was like, anyway, you know what? We'll just move on. We can edit this out, but
Well, you're in good company. That's what you need to know about being, a researcher or even like a occultist, right? Like you're not alone. You're not ever going to be alone. And there's a lot of people who know what you're going through. And I think there's going to be some support systems coming out because all these drugs that doctors give you, they don't work. And when they stop working, just even ask like someone who smokes weed. Like
no,
the
no,
first
they
time you
don't,
smoke
they
weed,
don't, they don't.
it's not like that ever again.
None of them work. Zero tolerance for big pharma. It's all poison. There are no good drugs. There are no working drugs. That's all fucking in people's heads. It's all psychosomatic. None of it. I
We
know.
have great psychologists who've given their lives to this work, though. If we can just keep the greats close, then I think that's a big step forwards to someone who's going through some trauma or personal issues. Read Carl Jung, read Wilhelm Reich, read all the greats that have come before us. And trust me, there's nothing humanity is going through now or in the future that we haven't been through before. It's been much, much worse on our great grandparents. And before that, like I think we're in a good spot now, and people are just having trouble with all this freedom. It's like we were given so much freedom throughout the 60s and 70s, and now look at all this like crazy, like go out and whatever. Like I don't know. It's just like people are sick of it. They're like, well, we need to go back into tyranny now. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think we've ever been free, um, at all. You pretty much have always had to pay to live,
Well, the
right?
problem is it's an individual choice. So this is the crowd consciousness aspect of it. Like if every individual understands it, they would never put up with it. But we live in a world where people just go to group. Like what do you think like, this is again coming from Unslaved podcast, but they start you off going to Boy Scouts or the female edition of that. You're always in this group that's just putting a hockey team, how about a soccer team? You're going to summer camps, like, and then you're going off to join the corporation or you're going off to join the police. And, how do you even escape it? It's amazing that anyone even does. But you have,
Um,
I have, it's possible.
It is, yeah, but it takes a lot of work, like you said, and you do need, everybody needs a therapist, or at least at the very minimum, a close friend that you trust, that you can unload and unburden to. You know how society was and is and should be, was an agricultural society with small villages, and you homeschooled. Everybody had big families, and they all helped out on the farms, and you got together as little villages, and you had, festivals and dinners or whatever. And the men, they had two or three close friends, confidants, and they would tell their stuff too. And and that was their support groups. The children had theirs, and the women, they would knit and have their circles, and they would tell their, and that was counseling. That's how it was done.
I'd like to
Just
pop in here and sorry to interject, but
That's okay.
one of the things I'm seeing that's a big problem is that all these elders that are enjoying their retirements are not teaching the young people about life anymore. They're just on their own thing, and they're being indulgent people and into this all this decadent stuff, when really what they need to be doing is speaking to the youth about, the truth about the world, and how to, just survive, and how to, live a balanced life. Like you're saying, like we're not the first people to come upon this info, but I think we need the elders to be the elders again and really, communicate effective messages to the youth.
Well, if you want to be an elder, then you're not going to hand your children over to the government to raise them. There's your first mistake, right? And hand them over to the white coat quacks to give them fucking poison, to steal their souls, to eliminate the soul. I mean, these are the first steps. I mean, they're jamming poisons into newborns.
Yep, day one.
Just that the thought of that, and I've run into so many parents, and I do feel bad for them, but they have the cognitive dissonance, right? They don't want to accept it, because what they're accepting is, I made a mistake. I did that. And I mean, that's gotta,
That'll be the
be
best day of
that.
your life when you look in the mirror and say, I was fooled, but I'm not going to be fooled again.
Yeah. And you know what? If you change your diet and lifestyle and live clean and toxin free, like I do, eventually you could get rid of so much of the damage that was done. It's just, people, what do they think they call it booster shots for? you know, they just keep taking it and reinforcing it and growing it. But if you just stop, give yourself 10 years of clean living, just drinking water, that's it. Like I've gotten my diet out, just so I don't forget. Folks, if you're out there, I am a counselor, and you can book a session, and I have a wealth of experience. And I know, I'm going to be honest, and I don't mean to sound bragocious, but I know way more about health and wellness than any doctor or psychologist out there that was trained in our university systems. I've been through it firsthand, real experience, and I've come from the brink of death's door to a very happy, spiritually fulfilled man.
Probably one of the most productive people ever. Where can people find you? You have a number of different locations online.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm on BitChute. Human Rights, WRITES. So HUMANWRITES. My name is Rod Berg, RODBERG, and just plug that into the computer, and you can find me. I'm on Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, but I have two or three strikes. It's interesting. Right before Pride Month, they engineered a couple of videos that were there for a long time, and then went into the and just decided, yeah, we're going to give you two strikes. So I couldn't upload anything on there till September.
Oh no, you're in YouTube jail.
Yeah, but like coincidentally, right before Pride, like all my short videos that I've done, oh, they would have done well on YouTube. But anyway,
You do great on TikTok too. But I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. We're definitely going to have to continue. I know you've made some major changes to your own individual health.
wait, I just want to answer one question that you wrote to me, and about whistleblowers with the harp and the weaponized weather and wildfires, because it's all intertwined. Um, it's all military. Okay. So you saw the movie Minority Report, or you're aware of it, and you're aware of the technology they have with our phones, and they can read our thoughts and biorhythms from vaccines, and they literally know what we're thinking before we do, and therefore they know anybody who's even thinking about blowing a whistle. Boom. Oh, he had an accident. That's why you don't see any whistleblowers, right? And the fear, the fear, the fear, the fear. Um, that's what this technology is all for. It's for control, right? So just through your phones and your social media, unless you keep everything to yourself, they're going to know. Even if you have one thought you're wasted some night and you put out a tweet and you're a military guy and you're like, Jesus Christ, the people got to know about this shit, right?
That might be the end for you.
Right? Or they could do a memory erase. I mean, all of that stuff is real. They have the chemicals. They can do anything. So anyway, I just thought that was a great question, and I actually thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's why exactly. Yeah.
You never know, though. More and more people might step forwards, especially as we're seeing in academia. Like this, there's war going on in these institutions.
Well, and the other thing is the internet, right here. Say something is uploaded, their algorithms snatch it and burn it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, somebody can get it, but they have to do it, and somebody has to download it quickly, and upload it, and hopefully But I have not seen many whistleblowers on that type of stuff, directed energy weapons, and I'm looking. Believe me, Stuart, I'm looking. All we need is one, right? Just starts with one. We need one military person to go anonymous and just say absolutely what that guy Rod is saying on BitChute, 100% true.
If you're out there and you've got some of this stuff, send it to stupassmore@protonmail.com. And I'm sure Rodney would be more than interested in looking at this stuff too. I'm sure your inbox might get flooded with some of this stuff. So, that's going to be it for today's episode of No Limits Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on, Rodney. And I look forward to having you back.
All right, Stuart, thanks a lot. Take care, buddy. I really appreciate it. That was awesome. Sorry for the salty language, folks.